up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 891. Gary's here. We have got a few challenges with headsets and bandwidth, but we got there in the end, so we've got a good show for you. We've got a new feature update for Windows 11, which we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about, I've got a bit of a redesign for TDL, we can talk about that as well. iPhone phone link working with Windows 11, and lots more, so let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening from Limited Garage.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It works all the time, and then when you want to get on there, something. It's so hard to troubleshoot them, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It could be
there's definitely upstream. It's following the upstream. I'm supposed to be on a synchronous network, but definitely the upstream is definitely poor at the moment. So, in fact, very poor. I'm not sure how I'm sounding, but apparently I've only got 1.49 megabits available to me upstream.
Well, the audio is not too bad, so that's the main thing. So we won't do your video tonight. We've no Richard tonight, but we have got some interesting things to talk about. New updates to Windows 11, some phone link stuff coming out. We've got I've finished my loft. I can tell you about that as well, and I've got a bit of an update on the website as well. So, and I'm sure you've got something for us as well. So, let's first. First I'll talk about the refreshed website. Can you actually? Have you got enough bandwidth to see the screen share?
I think so. I think I have got bandwidth to see the screen share. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the viewers will be able to see it anyway, and listeners, I'll describe it anyway. So, I spent a bit of time. We've got a new theme on TDL, which is a lot quicker. The old theme was kind of bogged down, I think, with the kind of made it quite slow. So I've managed to refresh that, so it's got a nice new look and feel to it. And I've also added some music tech stuff and so there is a separate section there for music tech. So that's things other than the Windows Insider stuff. So like the sound sets that I've been creating and some of the vintage stuff that I've been doing as well. So and some of the how-to stuff for synth stuff as well. So some of it crosses over, some of it's Windows 10, Windows 11, and music tech, but I put it in both categories. So if you're interested in just going to music tech, you can actually just go musictech.thedigitallifestyle.com and it takes you straight to that. And I have got a download section as well where I've together all the bits and pieces that I've been playing with recently and into one place so that people can find it. Something very popular at the moment. I don't know whether, Gary, you heard it last week, but the Genesis Watch of the Skies patch that I made for the Modwave.
Yeah, very, very. I enjoyed that greatly, hearing that.
Yeah. So I like quite a lot of downloads of that. So that's available. So if you've got a Modwave, you can just download that and import it in, and you can recreate those strange chords that Genesis use. But it just shows you what quite a versatile instrument it is, because it does really sound like a Mellotron. It's probably the closest sounding thing for Genesis that I've heard, other than a proper modeled Mellotron. So, and also I've got on there the Uno Drum samples sets that I created, talked about a few weeks ago. So you can download the TR505 and the RX5. I have got a really nice Simmons kit coming as well, so that'll go up on here soon. And the app switcher, and I've also got a bit of retro stuff on here as well. So the demo tapes that we talked about a few weeks ago, which the hilarious American style DJ one, I put that on there for download as well. The DX7 one, the demo tape for a Korg i3 from 1993, I think it is. I found that tape, was in Loft, and the sales brochure from an MS2000, which is about 2000. But I also found this that I've had for some time, which is and I'll stop sharing the screen and I can show it on the camera. But this is a Yamaha booklet from 1983 that came out with the DX7 when it first came out, and it's a guide by one of the developers, Dave Bristow of FM Technology. So it's the synth that came out. The DX7, of course, is the one in the 80s that every group on Top of the Pops had. And it's a really good guide, actually. It goes all the way through introduction, because it was a very new concept compared to sort of analog synths of the 70s. So it's a bit of interesting history. So I've archived that and made that available. So I'm not charging because I don't own the copyright, but it is a historical interest, I think. So I put all that on there. So so those are available on the site as well. So if I find anything else that I think is of interest, music tech wise, I'll stick it on the site as well. But I'll definitely be doing some more Korg Sounds Modwave patches. I've got quite a bank of those that I've created my own ones, so I'll stick on there. So maybe Gary, if you get into your what was it, D110, Roland D110, get into a bit of patch creation on there, you can upload them.
That'd be cool.
I bet it's been a long while since you've had that device powered up.
It is, but the plan is to get it back out here, so we'll see.
Yeah. So moving on to some Windows Insider news. Today, as we record on Tuesday, Microsoft announced the next feature update to Windows 11. They haven't given it a name. Internally, I think it's called Moment 2. But that's been released today, and I think we had a taste of that last week for Windows Insiders. I don't know whether you got to try that out yet.
I haven't got it on my download for some reason. I'm going to have another go. I seem to be behind. I don't
think it's out yet. So it came out last week for Windows Insiders on the release preview channel, and it's part of the March update. So I don't think it's, although Microsoft announced it today, I don't think it's actually going to start shipping today. I think it's going to be tomorrow. It's Patch Tuesday. Well, it's Patch Tuesday today, isn't it? So you might get it tonight. But yeah, I think it's going to be more like tomorrow. I'm just doing a quick check on my machine. But Windows Insiders have had it for, well, all the features. Some of them go back to December last year, I think. But I have got highlights, so I can share that. That screen. So Panos Panay announced the update today. Like I said, they didn't specifically name it, but there are some interesting new features. They made a big deal actually about how the integrated Bing AI chat AI is built into the taskbar, which I'm not sure. I think people are expecting some AI right in the Windows taskbar. It's not quite the case. It's the search, which is powered by Bing, which comes up. So anyway, so the things that introduced in this build that this release that we've talked about in the past, the tabs in Notepad, we've talked about them. That's coming with this release. Screen recording with the snipping tool, we talked about that last year, and that's coming with this release. No audio with it, which I thought was a bit of a downside. So you can't use it for doing sort of a little how-to guide. You'd have to do that elsewhere. I used Camtasia, or you could use Teams, but you can record the screen. But probably more interesting, and I think more useful, is the tablet optimized taskbar. That's the one where it collapses automatically if you've got something like the Surface Go, and then you swipe up to show it. So that's been around for some time now, but that's in there. But the main thing is the new search box. I don't know. I'm going to check. I've got my virtual machine running. I'll just check. But so at the moment, the search is a little icon, isn't it, at the bottom? And in Windows 10, it's the search box where you can actually start to type in. Oh, I have got this running, I think, on my dev build. You can see it on anyway. So what they've done, they've changed the search icon to a search box that you can type in, which just like it is in Windows 10, which that itself is then connected with Bing and the AI search engine. In fact, just before we go on to it, I don't know how much chance you've had to play with the AI chat. I mean, Richard and I talked about it last week, but I actually found it quite useful, but with varying results. So here you can see the search box as opposed to the search button. For audio listeners, it's very much like the Windows 10 one. It's a box next to the start button, and it's got the little Bing AI icon in there as well. So when you go into that, then you can see the Bing suggestions. It's still the same thing. You can it's just the same as clicking on the search button in Windows 11, but you can start typing into the box now, which you couldn't do before. It just popped straight up before. So yeah, it is a better way of working. But that's when they're saying sort of the taskbar powered by AI. I don't think it's quite what they say. It sounds better. It sounded more interesting on the press release than it does in reality.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that it's probably quite useful to have it sitting there. Yeah, I'm not sure because would you use that, or would you always go to Edge and start binging from there?
Yeah, exactly. I would fire up Edge. The only thing I use the search for is applications. If I wanted to launch, my core software on this machine, or and even then it doesn't. If I went to remote desktop or something like that, that's how I use the search in Windows. Rather than if I want to actually search something, I fire up Edge or just open up the tab of Edge. But that's got the AI integration that's in Bing. It's not the same where you can just start chatting with it, but yeah, you can see how they're making the most of that hype from Bing, haven't they, in the ChatGPT. Incidentally, as well, you can get rid of that search box. You can change it back to just the icon if you want as well. So you've got control over that one. So yeah, so that was touted as one of the big new features with this update. Other things with this update are Task Manager where you can search, which I think is pretty useful, especially if you're doing anything system debugging or anything like that. Trying to find a task sometimes can be a bit tricky, so I think search is quite handy in that. You've got energy consumption recommendations, so you can go straight into settings and it'll recommend energy modes and things like that, which apply changes to reduce your consumption. And there's some accessibility features like narrator and braille and that kind of thing. So it's all coming down via Windows Update. So I'll check my machine and it's there. It's just popped up on mine tonight actually. So there you can see cumulative update for version 11.22 H2. So you need to be on 22H2 to get that as well. So I can stick that on my system, and it's just a quick reboot. So it's not a full build or anything like that, and you'll get that. So that'd be good for me. I like the tablet mode. I use the Surface Laptop Studio in tablet mode fairly often, so I think that'll be quite handy on that. But more on the Surface Go, I found that useful. But the improved search and the tabs and everything else would be good. So yeah, so those are the updates. So it's available now. I've got a video of the I have got a video of all my highlights of the changes up on the digitallifestyle.com. But if you're on 22H2, if you've got Windows Insider, you'll get that soon as well. We didn't have a Windows Insider build for the dev channel last week. I don't think at all, did we? So there was no new build last week. And I think we did. No, the release preview we got was the one that's coming out that already that we talked about that. But I think we did get a beta channel. In fact, something interesting on the beta release as well is if you have got a device on the beta channel and you want to get off the beta channel, then you can do that through. You can do that at the moment. So if you set your device to be unenrolled in settings, you can say stop receiving the builds, and you've got a week, I think, to get until the March the 8th, where it will then you've got that period where you can unenroll and just go back to being on the release channel or the normal release builds. So it's a short period of time, but you've got that option now, which is always handy. I think if you want to get out of the program for that particular device, now is your time, and you've got till the 8th. Another thing they announced today as well that's quite interesting, although not an iPhone user, we can ask Richard about this next week, is PhoneLink has now got iPhone support. You're not an iPhone user either, are you?
No, I'm not. But it's certainly interesting to see that. I mean, it's been one of the big complaints not been available for. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So what this gives you, and it's just a preview for Windows Insiders at the moment, is the option to pair up your machine with your phone. It uses Bluetooth, I think, and some permissions, and it pops up on the screen, guides you through it. And then once you've paired up, you can then go in there and see your contacts. I think you can see your contacts, you can see your messages, and you can view your calls history and things like that from there. So it's not fully as integrated as it is with Android and Samsung phones, where you can actually launch apps separately and control your music and that kind of thing. But at least it's there. I know that's one of the complaints for a lot of people had, is that Phone Link wasn't any good for Android. So it's finally here for iPhone, which is good to see. So I think Richard will be pleased with that one.
He will be pleased with that.
Yeah, it's nice to have that. So that's some good news that we can see what Richard thinks of that one next week. So that was all the updates we had for Windows Insiders last week. So no builds. So hopefully we'll be back with builds this week. But like I say, you have got that period of time if you want to opt out. Now is your time to do that. Yeah, it's a good time to do that. Did you have anything?
Smart home? I can say, how's your smart home going? Have you so anybody else dropped to their support for you recently?
No, actually, and that's a good thing. Arlo have backed off on their cancellation of the services for those devices, which was supposed to be next month, wasn't it, for some of the ones that I've got? But they've gone back on that. They've said that they've reevaluated that and they're going to continue supporting them, I think probably till the end of the year at least. So it's meant that my devices aren't having the plug pulled on them, so I don't have to change any devices, which is quite good. I was thinking of getting just another Blink camera, because the one that I have in the background actually works quite well and the battery lasts forever. But no need to change anything. So I'll continue with the Arlo one. So it's good to see that they respond to some customer feedback. I think there was a bit of a backlash, and I think the threat of some class action suits in the US is probably what pushed them over the edge.
Yes, I mean, it's good to see they could react, because it would have been, I think, well, it would have been annoying for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people as well. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the other thing, which is, we're getting to the top point where Samsung were going to turn off the old back end on SmartThings and all the Groovy based device drivers. That seems to get possibly going to be delayed again, because they don't seem to have actually managed to do all their own internal translation of their drivers to what's called an edge driver, which is written in a lovely language called Lua. But what we are seeing is a huge response from the community in terms of writing edge drivers. I don't know if they're easier to write or something, or there's just a few really key people are just ploughing them out, and there seems to be edge drivers for virtually every Zigbee device you can think of. And obviously, SmartThings have already announced they're going to support Matter as well. So Matter support, which is the next generation of devices, is going to be supporting SmartThings. So that shouldn't be an issue. But for Zigbee devices, I think it's very difficult to find a Zigbee device which isn't supported in some way in this new SmartThings thing already with these edge drivers. And it's meant I can do some really funky stuff. So one of the things I've got is I've got some automated blinds. They're the ones which are IKEA make. Unfortunately, they don't make ones which are quite wide enough over my windows, but they're wide enough, because my primary is for keeping the sun out of my eyes when I'm working at this desk. And one of the things I find is that at this time of year, midway through the afternoon, the sun gets quite low and it starts to dazzle me. And it's actually quite tricky to adjust the blinds and just cover that one bit of the window. I know how far it's got to go down. It's actually around about 12% open, and it will actually cover that piece. But I set up a button I could do to press it, but I was finding I was quite often on calls or whatever and wasn't able to sort of reach over and press the button and sort it out. So I actually found this wonderful driver which had been written for Edge, which is a virtual calendar driver. And
Right.
one of the options it's got in there is once you actually give it your location, it has the ability to work out what the azimuth of the sun is. So in other words, how high the sun is in the sky. And I can actually
Right.
work out what angle the sun is when it starts dazzling me. Because I've got to try, I tracked it through the day
Right.
to see when it starts dazzling me. So I've now got a routine set up which says if the azimuth of the sun is between these 2 degree levels, lower my blinds to this level, and it stops me
Right,
from
that's
getting blinded.
interesting, yeah.
And that's happening automatic. And it's one of those really convenient. Remember my favourite thing, convenience computing. It's such a convenient thing to happen because you don't have to think about it. It just happens. You don't even notice, and you don't get blinded. And it's I just love stuff like that where it just happens and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this one before, but one of my absolute all-time favorite automations is one I've got in the bedroom, which is basically when you turn the side light on, the light beside the bed, it automatically turns the main light off. So you go into the room, you turn the main light off, you walk across the bed so you don't trip over anything, get in bed, turn the side light on, and the main light goes off automatically. Well, it fades off, so it does all it does to you. And there's sort of like a cross fade, so the main light goes down and the other light comes up, so the light level stays the same all the way through, so you're not getting blinded.
Yeah.
And then when you turn that side light off, it doesn't turn the main light back on; it just turns it off. And then there's a sensor so if you get up in the night, the side light will come up at a lower light. But that's the sort of convenience. It's just instinctive. You turn that light on, the other one goes off. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's what you want
that's
most
really
of the time.
handy. Yeah.
So I think it's really a lot of it is not the fact what you can do with automation. So you do virtually anything if you put your mind to it. In terms of it's actually finding the things which are worth doing and actually are convenient. The other one which I've done this week is I've added another blind, and this one was really challenging to think about because it's a blind over the front door to this office, to the garden studio, and you think, okay, I've got a blind over the door. So when I've gone outside, the blind closes, which is great because it stops anybody seeing inside. But then how do I get into the office? Because the blind's down. So I'd have to sort of push the blind out of the way. So what I've done is I've put a movement sensor on the front door. So when I open the front door, as soon as I start opening it, that blind recognises the vibration and movement that it's actually being opened, and the blind starts going up.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So you can do that as well, and obviously that sensor then has other uses as well. It can be security, etc. But now what I want to do is actually work out a way of actually getting it so it only opens for me. So that's my next challenge: is to work it, making this office actually know I'm in the office, not just anybody's in the office. I'm in the office, and it's controllable. But
yeah, that's interesting because what I was thinking of something like that because both my lads have got Hue lights. And they have a terrible tendency of leaving them on.
Mm-hmm.
And either when they go out or if when they go downstairs, go downstairs to have a meal or something, and they've left the lights on. So I was trying to think of a good way of avoiding that issue without making it too complex. So I've got Life 360 on. But only one of the lads that has it on his phone now, so I could use that. So when it detects when he's left the house, it could turn his light off then because no one else will be in there. But my other son hasn't got that on, so I need another way of detecting that. He doesn't want a location-based thing on his phone, so when he gets 21,
so presence sensing is probably the way to go with. So infrared sensors work, but the only problem with infrared sensors is if you sit still for any length of time, they stop sensing you.
Yeah.
What you can get now is what they call microwave, MMI, micro. I can't remember the exact terminology of it, but it's basically a microwave sensor, and it's a band which has been carved out of the phone bands, and that will actually sense it's down to your heart beating. So if someone's actually in the room and the heart's beating, it will know that there's movement in the room and actually keep the presence sensor on. So that would actually allow you to have something which is completely controlled in that way. And then you could keep the lights on.
And then I just have to work out how to link that back to the Philips Hue because of course all the useful things like IFTTT of have got less functionality now.
Yeah.
Unless
obviously
you
you
can
can
use Power Automate, which I've got that.
Yeah, you possibly could use that. I mean, the other way is you could actually get a small hub. I mean, so SmartThings hubs are pretty cheap on eBay these days because a lot of people sold them off, and they can control Hue. Obviously, it's one of the things they work with. They can either control the devices directly because they're Zigbee devices, or they can control through the Hue hub, the way it currently is. So that's one definite option. So I can probably sort you out a SmartThings hub. Actually, I've got a few of them lying around. As long as you can get a power adapter for it. But the other, I mean, there's lots of options in terms of doing that. But the other thing is Hue actually do a presence sensor. I'm not sure it's microwave though. I think it's just a normal infrared one. But that might be an option.
Yeah. But yeah, that's true. I could look for something like that because, like you said, a motion sensor isn't good enough if they're sat on, playing on a game or something and not moving, not particularly moving, or sat watching TV or whatever. Yeah, you don't. I don't want them to keep switching off. But yeah, presence is definitely a way. I think actually the Live 360 option went because they got rid of their API a while back. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't use that either. So I think some kind of presence sensor would be the way to do it.
But the other option, and something I'm looking at, is using a Raspberry Pi to detect the Bluetooth on the phone.
Yes, because they always have phones with them.
Yeah, so you could check alongside Bluetooth turned on, which most people do, I think. You can actually check if that device was present in the room with the Bluetooth scanning on the Pi, and then get that to trigger something.
Yes, that would be a way, wouldn't it? As if you can trigger the Hue API. So then you don't even have to pair it, do you? So. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
You just have to see if a device is out there, don't you?
Yeah.
And can you do that in Python on the Pi?
I'm sure you probably could do it in Python from the Pi. There's probably a few scripts already out there. I think there was something. I think it was called Monitor or something similar, which actually allowed you to look for Bluetooth low energy devices. So I wonder if there's something else.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's a smart home thing that would be appreciated these day and age. Even for me in here, I turn the light off when I leave, so it saved me having to do that as well. Yeah, so that's a good idea. I'll have to have a look into that one.
I mean, of course, the other thing is if we were in the States, we could use Amazon Echoes to do this because they've actually turned on microwave sensing in the Echo. The new generation ones, but that doesn't seem to have got to the UK yet. So it'd be interesting.
That's in the actual. Do you need a special version of the Echo, one of the newer ones?
It has to be one of the ball-like white Echoes, so that generation and above. But I've got one of those, and it doesn't seem to be showing up for me as an option. So
yeah.
But
that would be interesting because they've both got Echoes in the room, but the smaller ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably could get away with upgrading their Echoes for them in better sound quality and sensing.
Yeah.
I know you can do it. I mean, some of the modern Echo studios shows do it. I know my Echo Show 10 can do it. It actually can do detection, but that's done through cameras rather than through.
Yeah.
And I know the big Echo does it as well. But the
because they also dim the screen, don't they, at night as well? Things depending on its movement. Yeah.
But yeah, the Echo Dot it's even in some of the Echo Dots. It doesn't. I'm trying to think which one is. See if I can find the article and share it with you. But yeah, definitely, it seems to only be available in the States at the moment. So it'd be nice to see it over here. Yeah. There's a lot of things in which are available in the States. I mean, one of the things which is really nice in the States, you can use modern Echoes as extensions to their Eero Mesh, which actually might make me think about changing my network if that's the case, because you could actually just replace all your mesh networking with Echoes, which would be an easier thing.
Oh, right, that's quite good. Because I was thinking one of my Ethernet over power line adapters is stopped working, or it's playing up anyway, in one of the rooms where it works for a bit and then just drops off and doesn't connect anymore. You unplug it, plug it back in, and it'll work for a bit, and then do the same thing again. Whereas the two others are on the same network, don't drop off at all. So I think it's that one device. So I was thinking just replacing that one device, but yeah, I'll have to see whether I am thinking of looking at mesh. I'm possibly reviewing one of the D-Link mesh networks, so that might be a better way of doing it rather than and get rid of the power line type things.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of things going on. I slightly misspoke. It's not a microwave on the Echoes. It's actually ultrasound they're using to do the presence detecting. Yeah. But that works equally well.
Yeah, it's something that's definitely worth looking at. That's something that you can actually will potentially save money and just annoyance for the fact that they've left it on. And is that, like you said, it's building that smart home to be useful rather than just for the sake of it.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, which is the things which it helps convince anybody that's not convinced about smart homes.
Yeah, the intelligent home rather than just being smart.
Yeah, and especially if it's got energy consumption, we can all benefit from that. Actually, I was going to ask you. I've seen a lot of places going with the solar panels. What's the current state? Is that something that you still think is worth doing, or is it still in that phase where the technology is changing?
Well, technology has changed a bit on solar. I mean, the modern panels are a lot better than the old panels, a lot more efficient. Battery technology has moved on an awful lot. Actually, one thing I did want to mention, because I've mentioned before on the show, and I hand up in front say I actually invested in their wind farm, but Ripple Energy, who do these crowd-funded or sort of cooperative wind farms, cooperative ventures. So they've done 2 wind farms up to now, and you can basically buy a chunk of the wind farm, and if you buy a chunk of the wind farm, you get it back on your energy bill effectively once they built the wind farm. So there is a gap between when you invest and when you actually start getting a return, and the return could be long or short depending on the cost of energy. At the moment, obviously, with the cost of energy being quite up there, the return is a lot shorter. But they've actually just announced that their next project is going to be a solar farm. So effectively, you can buy into a solar farm and have it cover up to 100% of your energy usage. Now, you still will get some costs to pay, because you still have to pay the infrastructure costs for getting the energy to your home, which is, I think, probably just a standing charge. But the actual cost of the electricity is covered by this thing. I'm not totally sure how that works out. What percentage of it is the energy cost and what percentage is the infrastructure cost? But certainly it is a lot going to make your energy bill a lot cheaper by having that. If you did have that coverage, now it's going to cost you a few pennies to do that. I don't exactly know how many it will be, but I suspect it's going to be fairly equivalent to putting solar panels on your roof in terms of cost. So that's another option if people, and it's particularly a good option if you've got something like a listed building where you're not allowed to put solar panels on, or you've got things where. So one of the things people keep finding when they go to solar is they've been restricted by their distribution network operator, the electricity company, from actually putting as many panels on as they'd like. Because there are some restrictions in terms of the good uses and things like that. Because you basically, if you've got too many panels, you actually be feeding a bit more electricity back into the grid potentially, and that they can restrict you on that. I mean, obviously, if you're completely off grid, it doesn't actually matter. But if you're on the grid, they can restrict. So this would get around that. You could put a few number of panels on your roof and then put it up with something. So I thought it was a really good idea. I mean, as I said, hands up, I actually invested in their last wind farm, which hasn't come online yet, but when it does, I should be getting a return on that. But yeah, it's certainly a good idea, I think. And I know there's quite a few people disappointed that it's a solar farm, because they were looking forward to investing in the wind farm because they'd seen what the results from the previous 2 wind farms, or the previous wind farm. But I think it's good that they've got a bit of diversity in there. So I should be looking at that when the offer documents come out at the end of next week. But that's Ripple Energy.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, so if I suppose you've got the upfront capital costs, but then you get the rewards of that over time.
yeah, basically, which is very similar to solar panels. You've got obviously you put solar panels on your roof. You've got an upfront cost which has gone up quite a bit. I mean, the lockdown and the energy price cost, particularly the energy price surge, has really pushed the price of solar up. It's supply and demand basically. Lots of people are demanding it, which wasn't the case before. And the price basically shot up. Particularly the battery part of it definitely shot up. Although it should really be going down because the cost of batteries is definitely going down. So yeah, but I think it's still very worthwhile. I think having solar. I think you can, if you've got the space for it and you've got the money to invest in it, you will get a return on it. It's just, and particularly with the cost of energy not really going down. So it's.
Yeah, actually, one thing you mentioned about lights and the sort of intelligent home is I am thinking of putting some lights into the loft. So listeners last week may be able to wince when they hear about my tale of me tripping the power off. But that's all resolved now. I managed to fix that. So I finished boarding the loft now. Even got a rather elegant solution for around the loft hatches, but there's no light in there at the moment. I've got a light, but it's on an extension lead, so I just plug it in when I open up the hatch. But I was thinking that I could use a motion sensor to trigger that, because that is ideal for that kind of thing. So there's some motion, it triggers the light, and then I'm fine for that. You don't spend extended periods of time sat around in the loft, so a motion sensor work quite well for that. So I'm just thinking of how I get the bulbs up, how I put the light fitting up there. So that really is an electrician's job to fit a proper a proper mains. So I may well get an electrician just to put a normal bayonet type thing up there, and then use a smart bulb triggered from a motion sensor, so I don't have to have a switch every time we go up there. I'm trying to fiddle for a switch. As soon as you open the hatch, it sees the motion and turns the light on. So I think I'm going to do something like that. But of course, if it's on a smart, you could actually turn the light on beforehand with your phone as well. So I think that's one way I might do that. But it's just, I've just got to get that 3-pin up there. But as much as I enjoy dabbling with electrics and main sockets and light switches, I actually think running a new electric ring in there in the loft is probably safer left to the professionals.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously that is notifiable if you actually want to add a new circuit. It's one of the things you're not supposed to do as a DIY.
Yeah, so I'm probably not going to do that myself. So but I think rather than make elaborate switches or anything like that, just an old bayonet, fit a smart bulb in there, and use one of the technologies to trigger that with either, just like I said, with phone or a motion sensor. The motion sensor on the hatch seems the best idea, and it just the light would come straight on instantly then. Mm-hmm. So I used, for anybody who's keeping track, 3 boxes of screws with there's 200 screws in each pack. So I used 600 screws. So that was a lot of screws. I'm really glad I had an electric screwdriver. That's all I can say. It's not a smart screwdriver. It's just it's an electric screwdriver, and I'm glad I didn't have to do it with the manual screws. But yeah, I did get my Bluetooth speaker up there and working away with a Bluetooth speaker up there. So yeah, so I'm quite happy with that stuff. In fact, it's quite big up there, so I think you could actually fit a nice electric track up there. So maybe that's the explain. Or or another recording studio. Maybe we could have a B studio up there, but
Studio B.
Yeah, not quite as convenient going up on the ladder each time. But yeah, I think I'm going to get smart lights on there.
Studio L, because you obviously can dig yourself a basement for Studio B.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, I don't need to buy any more kit. Plenty of stuff in here now. So yeah, I've no more room for any synths. So I am planning to release some more sound sets for the drum. So I mentioned the Simmons ones before, so I'll definitely have those. I'm going to create some samples myself from various bits of kit and do some samples on there. But anyway, so for my smart home, that's my next plan. Smart lighting in the loft. Yeah, that's a big good.
And that's a good one for a presence sensor.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe that actually, I'll start with that, something like that. So I'll get the electrics done, and then I'll look, because you could fit any bulb really, couldn't you? That you just has to be works with Hue or any of the smart home technologies, but it doesn't have to be a particularly expensive one.
Yeah, or get some sort of Zigbee switch actually on it, rather than actually doing it as light bulbs. You could just use standard bulbs or LED strip, and then have a Zigbee power on off switch for it.
Of course, yeah. So just so like a normal light switch, but it's a Zigbee one. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea, because I could get one of them and give it to the electrician to fit.
That would work quite well.
Yeah, and then a LED light strip would actually be quite good, because the bright ends distributed quite well, aren't they? If we get a long strip rather than having a central bulb. Yeah, that's what I've got. So we used to have one of the old fluorescent tubes up in our loft, and I replaced that with an LED tube, because that actually works. It's a much better light, and obviously not cheaper to run. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I might look at doing that then, and then that give me, I might be able to then combine that with the other rooms as well. All cost saving. Yes, indeed. Maybe you could actually get follow me lights in your loft. So you get up to the hatch and just tuck a bit around the hatch, and as you walk, the light follows you. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. Yeah. I might have to look at that. Yeah. Well, you could go the whole hog and do something like W-LED for addressable LED strip, and just have patterns sort of the. Yes, or with like the twinkly panels all along. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. The smart loft to go with my smart studio. I think that's a great idea. Well, I think we did have some challenges with bandwidth, Bluetooth headsets, extra screens, but we got there in the end. We managed to get through, so it's slightly shorter, but I'm glad we managed to get the technology working for us again. A new set of Microsoft headphones that weren't working, but it turns out it was just the Surface laptop needed a reboot. Actually, they're quite good. These are, I can't remember the exact model of these now. I'll get that for next week. But these are Microsoft Teams headsets, so it's got the team logo on there, which always sounds a bit amusing, because all it actually does is bring Teams to the front. So, but they do make quite a thing out of it. But it's got the mute button on there, and the call end button, and your volume controls. But it's actually quite a lightweight. I had the ones that I used to use. I've been using these Jabra ones, but the foam has gone on them. But they're actually quite heavy, which they feel quite nice and quite chunky. And I'm quite, I like the bigger headphones, like for my studio stuff. But for when you're working, I actually find the bigger headset is a bit too much, and these are a bit of lightweight ones. I don't leave them on all the time, even for calls, but I actually prefer a lightweight set. So these are quite nice. These USB-C as well, so they go straight into the Surface there. So quite a nice little set, but they're not Surface branded or anything, just a Microsoft headset, USB-C. I can't remember the brand name or what Microsoft called it. I think it's just called a Teams headset or something like that nowadays. Right. Cool. So I think we've managed to get there this week. So where can we find you? In fact, will work mainly on your EV channel. What's your EV channel on YouTube? My EV channel is called EV Owner on YouTube. It's fairly easy to find. And I'll start. There's not much done up recently, but I am starting to do the state of EVs in the UK interviews sessions again this year. So obviously that one with all charging the other week, which seems to have gone down quite well. I had a confidence bit of feedback on that actually, so from some of the EV drivers. So that was interesting to hear. But obviously getting to understand that and trying to talk to a lot more of the movers and shakers in the industry. So that'll be being posted up on my channel fairly shortly, hopefully. Excellent stuff. Well, hopefully Richard will be back with Richard. We should say happy birthday to Richard for Tuesday. Well, they obviously did that phone link stuff as his birthday present. Yeah, we should be very excited about that. We'll find out how excited he is next week, and he might even have the update and be even more excited. So we're back same time, same place next week. You can email me at thisLifestyle.com. So we'll see you next week.